I'm going to be reading from the book Impro, Improvisation and Theater by Keith Johnstone. This is a short portion I'll be reading from page 41 on status. Teaching status. Social animals have inbuilt rules which prevent them from killing each other for food, mates, and so on. Such animals confront each other and sometimes fight until a hierarchy is established, after which there's no fighting until an attempt is made to change the pecking order. The system is found in animals as diverse as human beings, chickens, and woodlice. I've known about this ever since I was given a book about social dominance in Kittiwaki colonies, yet I hadn't immediately thought of applying this information in actor training. This is because normal people are inhibited from seeing that no action, sound, or movement is innocent of purpose. Many psychologists have noted how uncannily perceptive some schizophrenics are. I think their madness must have opened their eyes to things that normal people are trained to ignore. In animals, the pattern of eye contacts often establishes dominance. A stare is often interpreted as an aggressive act, hence the dangers of looking at gorillas through binoculars. Visitors to zoos feel dominant when they can outstare the animals. I suggest you try the opposite with zoo animals. Break eye contact and then glance back for a moment. Polar bears may suddenly see you as food. Owls cheer up perceptibly. Some people dispute that the held eye contact between strangers is dominant. Kenneth Strongman, in the March 1970 issue of Science Journal, at the time we thought ourselves justified in concluding that a dominant structure of submission from eye contact exists, and that this tends to approach hierarchy, particularly when the focus is on initial eye contact. Our reason for considering it to be concerned with dominance was based on a statement made by Argyle and Dean, who suggested that if A wants to dominate B, he stares at him appropriately. B can accept this with a submissive expression or by looking away, or can challenge and outstare. However, S.E. Poppleton, a research student at Exeter, has since shown that the relationship between eye glance submission hierarchies and an independent measure of dominance. This is provided by Catel's 16PF personality inventory. What was it saying? Has since shown that the relationship between eye glance submission hierarchies and an independent measure of dominance is an inverse one. Thus, he who looks away first is the more dominant. One might contrast this with other reports like that of an experiment at Stanford University, where it was found that drivers who had been stared at left traffic lights appreciably faster. Such disagreements indicate the difficulty of actually perceiving status transactions. In my view, breaking eye contact can be high status so long as you don't immediately glance back for a fraction of a second. If you ignore someone, your status rises. If you feel impelled to look back, then it falls. It's as if the proper state of human beings is high, but that we modify ourselves to avoid conflicts. Posture experts like Matthias Alexander teach high-status postures as correct. It's only to be expected that status is established not by steering, but by the reaction to steering. Thus, dark glasses raise status because we can't see the submission of the eyes. I minimize status resistance from my students by getting them to experience various status sensations before I discuss the implications or even introduce the term. I might ask them to say something nice to the person beside them and then to say something nasty. This releases a lot of laughter, and they're surprised to find that they often achieve the wrong effect. Some people never really say anything nice, and others never say anything really nasty, but they won't realize this. I ask a group to mill about and say hello to each other. They feel very awkward because the situation's not real. They don't know what status they should be playing. I then get some of the group to hold all eye contacts for a couple of seconds while the others try to make and then break eye contacts, and then immediately glance back for a moment. The group suddenly looks more like a real group in that some people become dominant and others submissive. Those who hold eye contact report they feel powerful and actually look powerful. Those who break eye contact and glance back feel feeble and look it. The students look like this and are interested and puzzled by the strength of the sensations. I might then begin to insert a tentative at the beginning of each of my sentences and ask the group if they detect any change in me. They say I look helpless and weak, but they can't, interestingly enough, say what I'm doing that's different. I don't normally begin every sentence with so it should be very obvious. Then I move to the middle of the sentences, and they perceive me as becoming a little stronger. If I make the longer and move it back to the beginning of the sentences, they say I look more confident, more important. When I explain what I'm doing and let them experiment, they're amazed at the different feelings of the lengths and displacement of the give them. They're also surprised that it's difficult to get some people to use a short There wouldn't seem to be any problem putting an lasting a fraction of a second at the beginning of each sentence, but many people unconsciously resist. They say or elongate the sound. These are people who cling to their self-importance. The short is an invitation for people to interrupt you. The longer says, don't interrupt me, even though I haven't thought of what to say yet. Again, I change my behavior and become authoritative. I ask them what I've done to create this change in my relation with them, and whatever they guess to be the reason you're holding eye contact, you're getting straighter, I stop doing it, the effect continues. Finally, I explain I'm keeping my head still whenever I speak, and that this produces great changes in the way I perceive myself and I'm perceived by others. I suggest you try now with anyone you're with. Some people find it impossible to speak with a still head, and more curiously, some students maintain it still while they're actually jerking it about. I let such students practice in front of a mirror. I use videotape. Actors need authority, tragic heroes, and so on have to learn and actors needing authority, tragic heroes, and so on have to learn this still head trick. You can talk and waggle your head about if you play the gravedigger, but not if you play Hamlet. Officers are trained not to move the head while issuing commands. My belief at this moment is that people have a preferred status, that they like to be low or high, that they try to maneuver themselves into the preferred positions. A person who plays high status is saying, don't come near me, I bite. Someone who plays low status is saying, don't bite me, I'm not worth the trouble. In either case, the status played is a defense, and it'll usually work. It's very likely that you will increasingly be conditioned into playing the status that you found an effective defense. You become a status specialist, very good at playing one status, but not very happy or competent at playing the other. Asked to play the wrong status, you'll feel undefended. I reassure my students and encourage them and let them have conversations together, trying out different ways of changing their status. One student might try moving very smoothly, high status, while his partner moves jerkily, low status. One might keep putting his hands near his face while he speaks, and the other might try keeping his hands away from his face. One might try holding his toes pointing inwards, low status, while another sits back, spreads himself, high status. These are just tricks in order to get the students to experience high status. If I speak with a still head, then I'll do many other things high status quite automatically. I'll speak in complete sentences. I'll hold eye contact. I'll move more smoothly and occupy more space. If I talk with my toes pointing inward, I'm more likely to give a hesitant little before each sentence. And I'll smile with my teeth, covering my bottom lip, and I'll sound a little breathless, and so on. We were amazed to find that apparently unrelated things could so strongly influence each other. It doesn't seem reasonable that the position of the feet could influence sentence structure and eye contact, but it is so. One student have understood the concepts and have been coaxed into experiencing the two states. Then I get them to play scenes in which both lower status, 2, both raise status, and 3, one raises while the other lowers, and 4, the status in the reverse is reversed during the scene. I insist that they have to get their status just a little above or below their partners. This ensures that they really see their partner, as they have exactly to relate their behavior to his. The automatic status skills then locks onto the other actor, and the students are transformed into observant and apparently very experienced improvisers. Of course, they will have been playing status whenever they improvise, but it would be usually a personal status, not the status of a character. They would be relating to the problem of succeeding in the eyes of the audience. These status exercises reproduce on the stage of exactly the effects of real life, in which moment by moment each person adjusts his status up or down a fraction. When actors are reversing status during the scene, it's good to make them grade the transitions as smoothly as possible. I tell them that if I took a photograph every 5 seconds, I'd like to be able to arrange the prints in order just by the status shown. It's easy to reverse status in one jump. Learning to grade it delicately from moment to moment increases the control of the actor. The audience will always be held when a status is being modified. It isn't necessary for an actor to achieve the status he's trying to play in order to interest an audience. To see someone trying to be high and failing is just as delightful as watching him succeed. And then he continues with some notes made by students who had just been introduced to status work. And I will stop there and have a beautiful rest of your day.